Welcome back to the bench. We have this sterling silver ring today. It's a size 8.25. It needs to go down to a 5.5. So we're gonna take a chunky chunk out of this. The gems were loose. I already tightened them up prior to removing the piece out of the back, but we might end up tightening them again. Actually, I'm almost certain we will because we're taking so much out of the back. All right, let's get started. We're going down 2 3/4 sizes, which is equivalent to this space between my dividers. And I just dropped the ring. It happens. Okay, so we're gonna hang it on my little ring spot here. And we're going to mark our 2 lines. Give it a good push. And hopefully the lighting's okay. You can see the 2 lines. We're gonna cut this thing out. So this is pretty self-explanatory, right? You just mark and cut. But as we cut, gotta make sure our blade doesn't pop out so we don't cut ourselves. And hold it firmly to your bench pin. Whoa! 18 years of experience, but you know what? Sometimes it's not easy. I guess that's a part of the job I like, and is that it's always something different. So anyway, we have the giant gap. We need to obviously pull this together. So we're going to manipulate it, massage it with our fingertips until we're getting close. And then I'm gonna clean that edge up. Now we're going to create a butt joint on this. I did say butt. Yes, it's spelled the same way. We're gonna use this equalizing file. It cuts on both sides. That way we'll get a nice and straight seam. My saw leaves a little bit of flashing. So we're just going to put a little pressure on the 2 sides. And we're gonna run our file a few strokes in between just to clean up those edges. And then, see how tight that's going to be? That's exactly what we want. So I'll manipulate this so it can fit just right. So you end up bending it back and forth a little bit until you get a tight seam. I'm looking through my phone camera doing this, so it's not as easy as it normally would be, because if you ever tried doing anything looking through your phone camera, it's not as easy as looking in person. So anyway, it should look something like that. I'm gonna fine tune it and then we'll solder it. All right, I got it lined up the way I wanted. Now let's go solder. When we're soldering sterling silver and we're dealing with colored gemstones of unknown origin, this stuff, Cool Jewel, it's good. It's good paste it's like a gel, and it protects the stones from getting too hot. So, colored gemstones are usually not too heat resistant, at least when you don't know what they are. Sapphires and rubies, they're corundum, they can handle some heat. But when it comes to unknown gems, of colored gems, then you have to do this. Now, no, I'm not racist. They're colored gemstones, okay? That's just the way it is. Colored gemstones just can't take the heat. So, there we go. Put our goop on there. We'll save that for later. And now we'll get our ring ready to solder. I turned my lights off just to see if my camera would pick up the soldering a little bit better. So we'll see how it works. Now I'm putting on a little flux. You gotta flux that stuff. F-L-U-X. That helps the solder to flow and clean the joint. So we're gonna fire up our torch here. Well, I've got this so close I can barely see what I'm doing. Maybe I'll move this back a bit. And to do this, sterling silver is a heat sink. It's going to take a screaming hot flame to get the solder to flow. I'm gonna take my little pallion of solder and put it right on the solder joint. Then we'll take my titanium solder pick and we'll hold it on there while we heat from the bottom. and it'll draw, using capillary action, it'll draw that solder down through the seam. So this might get loud, so you might not be able to hear me talk. We're gonna get this flame just raging. All right, let's try that. My solder flew off, so let me grab it with my pick. It didn't quite go. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, this fantastic crock pot. Look at how nice this is. This has hot water in it, obviously, because it's on, but there's a solution in here called pickling solution. You don't want your steel tweezers in there, only precious metals, copper, non-ferrous, non-iron bearing. And I don't know what these gems are, so we're just putting our seam in the pickle pot, the bottom of the ring. And this heat will take the flux off of, and yes, F-L-U-X, flux off of the back of the ring that we had just soldered. Because when you solder and that flux dries, it almost turns to glass. I don't know why my camera isn't focusing. Anyway, we're gonna dunk it in some water over here, which looks really nice. Isn't that appetizing? Back at the bench, the first thing I'm gonna do is round this out. Now look at the gap here and here, because the ring is not round and it needs to be a 5.5. Let's see where we come out without rounding it. We're at a 4 1/4. So do you think we'll get, what would that be? Over a size, we need to go up. Look at that, just with my fingers, I can get it that close. And we have a seam we need to file down on the inside. So we'll definitely hit the 5.5 mark. Now I knew taking that chunk out of the bottom, it's pretty round, would open up this top, because we removed material from the bottom and squeezed it in, and that opened up the top. So I knew these gems would come loose, and I don't know if you can see this on camera. See how it's wiggling? So I have to tighten that one up. And I already pre-tightened them before I sized it, but this one wiggles too. The center is pretty solid. Those prongs don't move that much, but I knew the sides would come loose. So they are a little loose. I'm glad they didn't fall out because I didn't want to have to reset them, but I'll be able to tighten those up in just a moment. Now, if you watch any of my other videos, you know what I'm about to do. We're gonna sand and file and sand and file and get all these irregularities smoothed out so we can have a fine polish on this. So cue the cheesy music and let's get it done. I spoke too soon. As soon as I started sanding the inside, a gem just went boop and popped right out. So we're gonna have to reset that one. It won't be a big deal. It'll just take a little extra time. So this is a good starting point to talk about how much does it cost to size a ring that's sterling silver. Many times it costs more than the ring is paid for. So say this ring in particular, you know, say the person arbitrarily bought it for $70. I'm going to charge $100 to size it. And you might think, Adam, man, that's a lot. But think about it. The material I'm using is just this solder. So that's nominal when it comes to gold or silver. Obviously gold costs far more than silver, so it's a little bit more to do gold. But the labor is exactly the same. In fact, sometimes labor on the sterling silver piece is harder and more labor intense than the gold because it's a heat sink and all the heat travels to the rest of this ring. If this was a gold ring, I would probably be able to get away with soldering this without removing the gems, without putting them in the gel, and because the heat stays relatively close to the seam when doing gold. Now, would I do that? Probably not. I would probably still put gel on this just to be extra cautious, but my point is, it's the same amount of work, maybe even more work, to size a sterling silver ring as a gold ring. If we're talking platinum, that's a different story. But gold and silver, it's almost the same amount of labor. So just remember that if you go to your local jeweler or you send something to me or what have you, my time is still the same price. Anyone's time is worth the same thing. You know, whether you're dealing with something expensive or not expensive, it still takes the same know-how, it still takes the same labor to get the job done. So remember that next time you get something worked on. All right, friends. Well, as I've been working on the ring, we lost another one. And I actually mentioned that to this gentleman. I said, going down that far in size, these might come out, even if I tighten them ahead of time. So I gave him a price on if they didn't come out, and I gave him a price on if they did come out. So we're gonna have to go with the latter. And he was hesitant to spend the money on sizing this because it costs, for me to do this work is costing more than he paid for the ring. And I just explained to him the work involved and whatnot, and sometimes it's just the way it is. So here we go. I got a little more work ahead of me now that those popped out, which, it's not going to be that bad, but it's still time consuming. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting this all cleaned up so I can get it ready to polish. The last thing I'm going to do is set these side heart gems right here, and then we'll go and polish them up. Okay, we did 400 grit. Now we're on 600. I've already done one of the sides. Just cleaning up the sides here. When you file and then do 400 grit, you just keep going up in grit, finer and finer until you're ready to polish. So I usually go 400, 600, 1500, and then a polish. So that's what we're doing here. The sanding sticks help you keep it nice and flush. Now we have 1500 or 2500 I used to use, or sometimes still do, depending on the project. So we're just going and filing, actually sanding this. Okay. So do one side, the other side, and then the top is last. And like I mentioned, just prior to polishing, I'll reset those heart gems and get them set properly with the smaller ring size, and because that opened up in the center. So thanks for your patience, guys. This is just the name of the game. Finger dexterity, slow and steady wins the race, right? You rush through this stuff, you start making mistakes. So I take my time, and taking my time usually provides a better quality of work and service. All right, so there we are. We got a pre-polish basically. Now it's time to get these back in. Now, in order to hold this ring in, I'm gonna put the sleeve. Oh, you know what? This is the sleeve that fit before. Now I sized it down. I have to get a smaller one. All right, this little guy should do it. Put him in there. Open up our ball vise. And then tighten it back up. Okay, so this is getting tight. It'll hold our ring for us, so we can reset these with 2 hands instead of 1. New camera angle for you guys. This is exciting. So we're going to get under the microscope here and see about resetting these little heart-shaped gems, whatever they are. I don't know exactly what they are, but let's get them reset. So first thing we're gonna do is take a toothbrush. No, I didn't brush this with this one this morning, but I'm just gonna clean up that setting a bit. grab one of our little gems, and we're gonna slide it in here. Easier said than done. You have to really tweak these things to get them in. And in fact, I think I need a little bit of beeswax to hold it so that I can have my hands free and I can't find my, oh, here it is. Here's my beeswax. Okay, so let's try it like this. We're gonna stick it onto the beeswax and then slide it in. Okay, there we go, much better. Now, gonna get it to go down into the setting. And, you know, I think we're gonna have to burr a little bit to get this down far enough so I can get more material over the point of this stone. So that way it won't come out again. So let's do that. What we're experiencing is the belly of the stone is touching the sides of the setting, which are not allowing it to go down far enough. So I'm removing a little metal with the anticipation. After doing this, it will drop the gem down just enough so I can get more material over the point of the stone, which is what we're having trouble with. So almost there. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and try to fit it in there. Okay, so I did my burring and I got these gems so they go just where I wanted them. So here's the next step is I'm gonna take my pliers and squeeze. These are V prongs. I'm going to squeeze the V prongs so they're over the edge of this gem. And very carefully. We want to be very careful when we set these gems because they are not they're not diamonds. Diamonds you can be a little more liberal with the amount of force you use because they're very hard, but these guys are not. So, okay, there we are. Got a pretty good. We're gonna also hammer these pieces down slightly, and that way they'll be even more robust and be over the gem, you know, a little bit more, so we know they're not coming out of there. And you know, like I said, this is not an expensive ring, but it's part of the work I'm doing to it. I want to make sure that my work holds up for the test of time. So however long this is worn, I want my work to hold up and not have any issues in the future. So we're going to go ahead and just work on these until they're nice and tight. So I did my pliers work. Now I'm going to tighten these up additionally with my hammering handpiece here. That way we know all the material is over the edge of this gem and it's not going to go anywhere. So we're going to turn this up for a little more power and give it a go again. You guys can't see into the microscope, but as I'm doing this, I can see the metal moving, and it's creating an effect where I'm getting the material to go up and over the edge of the gem, which opened up when we sized it. So we're just replacing it to where it was before, displacing some of the silver so that gem is nice and tight. Now we'll spin it around and I'll check the other side, and that one's also loose. So we're gonna do the same thing. So a little wiggly. I'm gonna decrease my power because now I just need to finesse it over the top of that gem and not move so much. Okay, now we'll adjust the prongs, push those down a little bit until we get all of these gems tight, okay? We're really close. Just kind of the final touches, and then I'll clean these prongs up before we polish. It was kind of chilly this morning, so I've got the alpaca wool on and a wool hat, but now we need to we need to be able to see a little better. So I wear this headband. Now, don't make fun of my hair. I have hat hair and it probably looks like I'm balding because I am. I put this on so I look like Rambo. And my optivisors, otherwise, you know, if I just put these on, I break out. Even though I'm in my mid-40s, I still can get a bunch of zits or what, I don't know, whatever it is from my sweat on my skin and this plastic. So I put this cotton headband on and it looks cool, right? So here's the ring. Now we're going to go and we're going to take a rubber wheel and clean up these prongs, and we're going to give it a final polish and then let our customer know it's ready to rock. So doing this, filming takes a little extra time. I have to move everything off my bench so it's not convenient for filming, and I can't figure out where I put everything. So bear with me as I scour my bench for the correct little wheel that I need in order to clean these prongs up. Shoot. This is the one I need, but I need a new wheel on here because this is way too small. So, be right back. All right, we got our new rubber wheel. Let's install it. These are just little mandrels that screw on and off. And I save all these little rubber wheels go into my scrap bin because gold at the moment I'm making this video is at like 3,350 or something an ounce. So every little micron adds up. Oh my. Crazy times we're living in, guys. That's why people are doing a lot of jewelry repair, because to buy something new, it just, I mean, let's be honest, it costs a lot, right? I tell you what, my wage hasn't gone up enough to afford these high prices. So we fix the things we have, which were the way of old, you know? Back in the day, people fixed things. They didn't just buy new items. They would repair the ones they have and continue to use them. And that's the cool thing about jewelry. Jewelry is one of those items you can do that with. You can repair it. It's kind of like, you know, any metalwork. You can weld it and repair and keep using it. That way it's not going in a landfill. So here we go. Let's get this thing cleaned up. And I'll meet you at the polisher. Okay, let's go to the cleaner. Look at the jewelry business is dirty. Now this noise in here is, I hate it. Here we go. Join me in the horrible noise and the dungeon. This is where the jewelry goes to get cleaned. It goes in my little basket and it'll hang out there. How do you guys think I should clean my hands? There. All right, how do you guys clean your hands? You mechanics out there, jewelers, maybe you're smarter than me and you wear gloves. That could be. But I'm not that smart, so I don't use gloves and I get my hands nasty like this. I've been using, in my jewelry cleaner, my electronic cleaner, I use Simple Green and water, and that's what I've been using to scrub my fingers with a toothbrush. Anybody else have tricks? I'm not going to use Dawn dish soap or any of that crap. That stuff is horrible. So it's horrible for you. You know, Simple Green's probably not great either, but I feel like it's better to use that than some nasty dish soap that's going to change my hormones. So what do you guys use? Here it is. Out of the cleaner, resized. Both the side gems are reset. Ready for the customer to pick up. So that's a size 5.5. And ready to go. All right, we got that job done. Now, in many ways, that sterling silver ring took me longer than it would have a gold ring. The reason being is silver is very soft. So I had to go back and repolish it a couple times. Also, just the gems come loose a little bit easier. And anyway, so that's why it costs pretty much the same amount to size down a sterling silver ring as it does a gold ring, at least in my studio. Because I'm going off of how much the labor costs, the little bit of gold or silver that's used, it does add up to something, but it's not very much. Most of it's the labor. So, you know, what I do, ring sizing is one of the first things you learn as a jeweler, as a goldsmith, although when it gets more complicated, like going down almost 3 sizes, having gems fall out, figuring out how to kind of recalibrate the settings so it can, you know, those prongs opened up like this, and now I have to put the same size gem in there in an opened up space. So I have to come up with a way to pull everything in so it will accommodate that stone again. So anyway, hope that makes sense. And thanks for watching, you guys. It's been a minute since I've made a video, so thank you for watching this one. And hopefully I'll get more out soon.